The letter is dated March 4th. It says the treatment has been reviewed and determined to be not medically necessary at this time. It says you may appeal within 30 days. It says a case manager will be assigned. Your husband is in the bed next to you when you read it. He's been in this bed for 6 days. He's 47 years old. The oncologist called the treatment the standard of care. The letter says otherwise. 6 weeks ago, you were the kind of person who believed the insurance was the safety net. You had the plan through your husband's employer. Family coverage, $480 a month out of your combined paychecks. You had the premium plan, not the cheapest option, the second tier, because you'd read the comparison sheet, and the second tier covered specialist referrals without pre-authorization for most things. You had been responsible about this. You had made choices. Your husband, Marcus, is a project manager for a commercial flooring company. He's been at the job 11 years. Benefits package, 401k. The kind of stability that lets you stop checking the mail the way you did in your 20s. You work part-time as a dental hygienist, 3 days a week, because your daughter Bree is 9, and somebody needed to be available for pickup and school things. The math worked. The math had always worked. You have a house in a suburb of Columbus, a mortgage with 9 years left, a dog named Pepper, a daughter who reads too fast for her grade level and has opinions about which pasta shape is correct for which sauce. Marcus has always been healthy, or he seemed healthy. The kind of healthy where you don't really think about it, where health is the absence of a reason to think about it. He went to the doctor when something was wrong. He hadn't had a reason in years. In January, he started losing weight. Not a lot. Enough to notice. He was tired in a way he described as a different kind of tired. Not work tired. Different. By February 14th, you remember the date because of the obvious reason, you were in an oncologist's office listening to words that restructured everything. Stage 3. Non-small cell. The oncologist said the treatment protocol was well established. Chemotherapy combined with immunotherapy. She said it with the precision of someone who had said it many times and believed in what she was saying. You went home and sat in the car in the driveway for 22 minutes. Marcus was inside. Bree was at your sister's. You sat there, and you did the thing people do where they try to organize information that won't organize. Then you went inside, and you started making the calls. The first call to the insurer lasted 47 minutes. 17 of those minutes were hold music. The hold music was the kind that plays in a loop short enough that you count the repetitions. You counted 8. The representative who answered explained that the combination immunotherapy protocol required prior authorization. This was not something the oncologist's office had told you. You had assumed, you realize now you had assumed, that when a doctor says standard of care, the insurance company agrees that it is standard. That assumption is the first thing that gets corrected. The representative said a clinical review would be conducted. She gave you a case number. 4471B. She said the review would take up to 14 business days. 14 business days is 3 weeks. The oncologist's office had already submitted the authorization request on February 20th. It was now March 2nd. The clinical review had been running for 8 business days. Nobody had told you that. You found out because you called. On March 4th, the denial letter arrived. Not medically necessary at this time. The oncologist called that phrase clinically incorrect. She used those exact words. She said the evidence base for this protocol was strong, and that she would submit a peer-to-peer review request, which meant she would personally call the insurer's medical reviewer to argue Marcus's case physician to physician. You didn't know yet that the peer-to-peer review would be scheduled, rescheduled twice, and then conducted by a reviewer who spent 11 minutes on the call and had a different specialty than the oncologist. You filed the Level 1 appeal on March 9th. You had 21 days to submit it. You submitted it in 5, because waiting 21 days while your husband sat in a hospital bed felt like something you were not capable of doing. The appeal required a letter of medical necessity from the oncologist, Marcus's full pathology report, his imaging records, a personal statement from you, as the member, explaining why you were appealing, a copy of the original denial letter, documentation that the requested treatment was not experimental, the specific clinical evidence cited. You spent 3 evenings at the kitchen table after Bree was in bed pulling these documents together. The oncologist's office sent what they could. Some records you had to request separately, which took 4 days. One document came back with the wrong patient ID and had to be resubmitted. The case number on the appeal was 4471BA1. You wrote it on a Post-it and stuck it above your laptop. You'll come back to that. The Level 1 appeal was denied on March 28th. The denial letter said the review had been completed and the determination had been upheld. It said you could proceed to a Level 2 appeal or request an external review through the state's independent medical review process. You had never heard of an independent medical review. The letter explained it in 2 sentences. You called the insurer's appeals department. The hold time was 31 minutes. The representative confirmed that you had the right to request an IMR, an independent medical review conducted by a third-party organization contracted by the State Insurance Commission. She said the IMR would be binding on the insurer. Binding. That word felt significant. You wrote it down next to the case number. The IMR request form was 6 pages. It required medical records that overlapped with what you'd already submitted, plus an additional form from the treating physician confirming that care had been delayed due to the denial. Marcus had started a reduced-dosage chemotherapy regimen, the part of the protocol the insurer had approved. The oncologist described it as incomplete. She said treating half of the protocol was not the same as treating the disease. You submitted the IMR request on April 3rd. The IMR process took 22 business days. The external reviewer upheld the denial. You read that sentence 4 times. The external reviewer, the independent third party, the binding determination, said the clinical evidence did not meet the threshold required under the plan's medical necessity criteria. The oncologist called the criteria outdated. She used a stronger word than outdated. She said the criteria being applied had not been updated to reflect the current clinical evidence base, and that she had never seen this specific protocol denied on these grounds. That was April 30th. By April 30th, Marcus had completed 2 cycles of the partial protocol. He had lost 14 pounds since January. He was not getting worse at the rate the oncologist had feared in February. He was also not getting better. There was one more option. The insurer had a grievance process, separate from the appeal process. It addressed procedural complaints about how the review had been conducted. The oncologist's office also suggested applying to the drug manufacturer's patient assistance program directly, which could potentially provide the immunotherapy component at no cost outside of the insurance claim. A workaround, not a solution. You filed the grievance on May 3rd. You applied to the patient assistance program on May 4th. The grievance response time was 30 business days. You thought the IMR denial was the worst thing that could happen. You were wrong. 6 weeks later, Marcus is home, not recovered, home between treatment cycles, in the recliner in the living room with the footrest up, the one he bought when Bree was born, because he said you needed something comfortable in the house that wasn't for the baby. The patient assistance program approved the immunotherapy application on May 19th. The first shipment was delayed by an administrative hold, a conflict between the program's documentation requirements and the oncologist's practice management system. Hold lasted 11 days. The oncologist's billing coordinator resolved it on May 30th. Full protocol began June 2nd, 3 months and 29 days after the original authorization request. In those 4 months, the costs that ran parallel to the denial process. 2 hospitalizations for treatment-related complications, totaling $9,400 after your deductible. Lost income. Marcus had used his sick leave by March and gone on to short-term disability, which paid 60% of his base salary. The delta between his full salary and 60% of it was $1,180 a month. Your 3-day work schedule didn't cover it. You called your dental office and picked up a 4th day, then a 5th. Your sister took Bree on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. She didn't ask for anything, but you saw it, the way she started answering your calls a half-second slower. The weight of being the person other people are leaning on when they're already holding their own things. You told Marcus the patient assistance program had come through. You told him the full protocol was starting. You did not tell him the specific number on the credit card statement, which was $6,340 from the months when the income gap and the copays and the parking at the cancer center, $18 a day, cash only, had outrun what you had. He didn't ask. You don't know if that was because he trusted you, or because he had decided there were things he didn't want to know. By August, the question wasn't about the insurance anymore. The full protocol had been running for 9 weeks. The oncologist ordered new imaging in late July. She called on a Thursday afternoon while you were in the car in the parking lot of a grocery store. She said the disease had progressed. She said this carefully, the way doctors say things that are structured to be accurate and survivable at the same time. She said the imaging showed growth in 2 areas that had appeared stable in April. She said they were not out of options, but that the trajectory had changed. You sat in the parking lot. The groceries were for a normal week. Bree had a thing on Friday. Marcus had asked for the pasta with the short ridges, the kind Bree has opinions about. You had the list in your hand. The trajectory had changed. You did not tell Marcus what the oncologist said on the phone. You came home. You made the pasta. Marcus ate most of it, which was more than he'd been eating, and you held that as something true that was also true at the same time as the other thing. Your sister called that night. You didn't pick up. The grievance response arrived on June 24th. It said the review process had been conducted in accordance with plan guidelines and no procedural error had been identified. The case was closed. Case number 4471BG3, the case number you wrote on the post-it above your laptop. You took the post-it down sometime in July. You don't remember when exactly. Marcus died on October 11th, 8 months and 7 days after the original authorization request, 7 months after the first denial, 4 months after the full protocol that was denied began through a patient assistance program, not through the insurance he had paid into for 11 years. The oncologist said the delay in initiating the full protocol may have affected the outcome. She said this carefully, too. She said these things are not possible to know with certainty. You have not been able to stop doing the med sentence. The final medical bills arrived over 6 weeks, total out-of-pocket for the year, after all deductibles, co-pays, and the expenses the assistance program didn't cover. $23,400. You have $6,800 left on the credit card. Short-term disability ended when Marcus died. His employer has a life insurance benefit through work. $94,000. That is the number that now stands between you and the mortgage. Bree is in 4th grade. She is reading ahead of her class. The recliner is still in the living room. The footrest still goes up. You have not moved it. You don't know when you will. The post-it with the case numbers is in the kitchen drawer. You put it there instead of throwing it away. You're not sure why. Some piece of you that spent 8 months writing case numbers on post-its doesn't know what to do with its hands now that there are no more case numbers to write. Next week, POV. You missed the open enrollment window by 1 day and need emergency surgery. If you want to be there when it drops, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.